Hi there. So, welcome back to another episode of Kiddie Korner Media. And today I actually wanted to talk about a book for older, maybe high school or even older than that kind of kids or young at heart people. And that book today is The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins. And we all know that there was a movie version of this. Though I really think we should encourage people to read the book because not just because the old cliche of saying the book is better than the movie, each media has wonderful points about it. But in books, I love the fact that you can go into the minds of the characters and really learn. I mean, great actors can definitely portray that on TV or movies or the screen, whichever screen you're watching from. But there's something about being able to hear those exact thoughts that have always fascinated me. And I picked this book specifically for the reason of having the chance to discuss humanity, our emotions, our choices, what is instinct, what is natural, what is chosen, what is purposeful. And I think this book has a great examples of three things. One, when each action is mainly chosen or focused on, deliberated, thought of, methodical, and that's the character of Snow. Then there's this character of his friend Sejanus, who is a person who works on impulse. His emotions get high, he goes and he acts. And obviously sometimes both methods have the good and the bad consequences, harmful, helpful, whichever. And then you have someone who's sort of in the middle, which is the Lucy Gray character. Sometimes she is acting on her feelings and her emotions, but there are times where she is also thinking ahead and figuring out what does she need to do, what's going to be the right move for her. And I think that's a great way to have a sit down discussion, especially with younger people who are still trying to figure out the world and figure out what to do, how to interact with it, especially when times get heavy and tough. I mean, this book is full of heavy, tough times. I don't think there's very many light moments, if I remember correctly. But it also gives us a good examination of what does it mean to be a good person or an innocent person, or what does it mean to be corrupt or um, hate to say bad, but okay, bad person. And it gives us the chance to explore through the mind of this one character, but you're seeing the actions of the others and his reactions to those. And it's a fascinating character study too. For Snow, every moment, even the ones that seem impulsive, he's methodically thinking about everything. He has his emotions, but he tends to override them and try to think out what he needs to do. Even in his most impulsive moments, there's still a constant thought process. And that gives us the chance to think about, well, when someone is doing something that maybe we disagree with or find bothersome, you know, is it choice or is it impulse? Is it natural or is it methodical? And that really gives you a good chance to have some really great discussions with your friends or kids or other adults or a book club, whatever. So I find that fascinating to look into a character, especially one who thinks so clearly. Obviously, all the characters have gone through some sort of trauma, some sort of hard time, and to see the different reactions from those hard times is also really fascinating. What do you do when your world falls apart? What do you do when everything around you is disintegrating? Or even if your own life is in jeopardy. I want to read this couple of parts that I thought were fascinating that really gets you into the mind. And this is in the epilogue where he's kind of thinking in his head and how he doesn't want to hear about this girl that he's fallen in love with. He says in his thoughts, and he didn't like love. The way it made him feel stupid and vulnerable. If he married, he'd choose someone incapable of swaying his heart, someone he hated even, so they could never manipulate him the way Lucy Gray had, never make him feel jealous or weak. I think that's a really great quote right there, because he's seeing these feelings as something negative while another person might see it as something confirming or life-affirming. Maybe not the jealous part. But way he sees emotions is a really interesting way of wondering, well, what do you do? Because an emotion is a natural reaction to whatever's happening. It's that moment when you stop and take an action that becomes sometimes a choice, that becomes an impulse. And which is stronger? Which one is having a harder time to deal with? So that's why I would really recommend this book to anybody, honestly, of all grades, obviously because of the violence and having it being done by children, something you might want to look out for, especially if you have a young advanced reader. So anything I might suggest or recommend is something that I would think you check out first before you decide if it's okay to have around the people you want to read it with. And I just want to end with one more quote that they have in this book about human nature. And it's just towards. Oh, I might have lost it. Sorry. Here we go. And this is when Snow is talking to the dean of one of the schools about the creation of the Hunger Games. And he goes, and who but the vilest monster would stage it? After the war, she pulled my proposal out, and with me with it, introducing me to Pan Am as the architect of the Hunger Games. Now, the story goes on a little bit more. I thought the thing would die out. It was so ghastly. It didn't. Dr. Gao took it and ran. She dragged me along with it for the last 10 years. It certainly supports her view of humanity, said Snow, especially using children. Why is that? Asked Dean Highbottom. Because we credit them with innocence, and if even the most innocent among us turn to killers in the Hunger Games, what does that say? That our essential nature is violent? Snow explained. Self-destructive? Dean Highbottom muttered. Right there, I think, is also a big crux of why these books, Hunger Games, these books are so popular, because it is taking the idea of innocence and twisting it, forcing these kids to fight to the death is something I don't know if we can all imagine other than in a fantasy story. And that's the beauty of fantasy. We can explore things and think about it and talk about human nature in ways that are safe, without actually trying to think about what is wrong or what is uncomfortable. It gives us that opening. And that's what I love so much about literature. Well, thank you for joining me. I hope you had a good one and enjoyed this video. And pass on that positivity. Bye.